Who am I? My name's Kevin Heinrich. I know some of you know me, some of you probably don't. I'm an AMGA certified rock guide. AMGA is the American Mountain Guides Association. It's the only internationally recognized certifying body in the US. And then being a certified rock guide, that's the highest rock climbing qualification you can get in the AMGA. I know it's kind of complex, but I think it's important because you might be looking to hire people. A lot of people honestly pretend to have qualifications they don't. So it might be important to know that language. Um, yeah, I've been teaching climbing. I've been guiding, but mostly I prefer to instruct and teach for 12 years. I've guided mostly rock, but also a lot of ice climbing, a lot of mountaineering, and a bit of skiing, and also taught skiing. I'll leave it at that. People who have been in the other webinars know I'll drone on a little bit. But feel free to look me up on our website, which should be in your document, and you can read more about my kind of climbing accomplishments. I think it is important who teaches you this stuff. And hopefully you think I'm qualified to teach you. Anyone can call themselves a guide in the United States. And anyone can own a guide service. And anyone can just read out of I could just be reading off of Mountain Project right now and not have an understanding about what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm trying to get through my intro a little quicker because last time I pinched myself on time. So yeah, and then I'm one of the owners of Vertical Pursuits, along with my very good friend Eric Griffith, who I'm sure some people here know. We are climbing mentors. We're not your grandpa's climbing guide service. We don't drag people up mountains. We teach climbing skills. We teach you to climb so that you can be confident and climb independently with your friends and have a great time and progress and learn new things about yourself and overcome challenges and go new places, all that sort of stuff. And we'd love for you to do that without us, but we'd love to teach you the skills to do that as safely as possible. And then I'm sure you'll be back to learn the next set of skills when it comes time. So yeah, we're based in Northern California. Check us out online. We've got a lot of courses coming up. I think in the handout, I linked a couple that I'm running, or maybe just one. I'm heading out to Moab in a few days, and I'm running a crack clinic out there, climbing desert towers. But yeah, on our website, you should be able to see, or in the handout, I think I linked our current events calendar. We've got courses happening next weekend. I think not this coming weekend, but the next. I think a intro to trad and a intro to multi-pitch that my partner Eric is running, and all sorts of stuff going on. So check us out. Cool. So moving right along for our topic tonight, I do want to start off with that climbing is inherently dangerous, right? I know I just use the word safe. I try to avoid using the word safe. Climbing isn't safe. It's not, life isn't safe, really. Existence isn't safe. And the climbing especially so. So we can do things safer, or we can do things, we can manage risks, but climbing is inherently dangerous. And this is not really a great way to learn technical climbing skills. I can't do it with you. I can't watch you do it. I can't see your understanding. So sometimes it makes me a little nervous. I'm like, wow, I'm about to teach this stuff. I have no clue who I'm talking to. They could interpret something the wrong way, or I could misspeak and, it could kill someone. So this is not a substitution for in-person instruction. And yeah, with all that said, I'd rather have information out there than not, even though it does put, maybe me at a little liability. I think climbing information should be out there, and people are putting it out there. I was doing research for this topic. I know what I like to do and what I like to teach, but I always like to check, okay, what are other people saying? What are other people teaching? And it often really surprises me what other people are saying. So anyway, I'm just adding to the fray of all this information. I watched this one YouTube video. It said, master class on anchor cleaning. And it was a 10-minute long video. I was like, whoa, 10 minutes for like a master class. I was like, man, I'm going to spend an hour and a half talking to these people about anchors and anchor cleaning. And there's going to be so much more to say. So anyway, it's just more information out there. Um, Along those lines, having a bit of instruction, which you might get tonight, we're all coming with a different background. We have some people with no exposure to this stuff. And then we have some people who've probably done, probably cleaned 100 anchors and they're just seeing if there's anything new, getting some continued education, which props to both of those people. Um, a little instruction and false confidence is super dangerous. I would honestly rather you have no instruction and be terrified. Um, so yeah, those are just some kind of caveats. A lot of people said in the order form for the Eventbrite that they wanted to learn safety, safe practices, safe, safe, safe. This word safe kept coming up. I think I put in the handout there this quote that I stumbled upon that I really liked, which is, "Safety is not knowledge acquired once and for all. It is above all a state of mind, a dynamic attitude of vigilance." I really liked that. I think it's from like a climbing guidebook or something, but safety is not, learning some rules to follow and then following the rules, but it's kind of this state of mind, this ever-changing dynamic vigilance and attitude. I really, really liked that. So I'm going to, there's so many ways to do things, and we can just try and remember the steps. And for a brand new beginner, that's all you can really do is try and remember this, then that, and kind of monkey see, monkey do. But as we learn more about climbing, or as we climb more, we want to start to understand more the background behind all of these things. So I want to like let you into the background behind these things. And then when you encounter a climbing system, you can interpret it for yourself in the pros and cons of, whatever methods being presented to you, or that your partner's doing, or that you're forced to do because, all I have left on my harness is, a Cliff Bar. How am I going to figure out how to do this skill? We have to be able to adapt. So we want to learn not to follow rules, but to understand systems. So the little bit of the flow tonight, we're going to start by talking about anchors. And then we're going to move into talking about anchor cleaning. And then try and have a big chunk of Q&A. Somebody's asking for the handout. I think there it goes again. Please ask questions throughout. Do my best to address them as we go. Questions relative to what I'm talking about. And then at the end, feel free to ask any question about anything. Cool. And then I put also a little comic clip in the handout for you guys there. This isn't going to work when I put it on YouTube, but which I thought was kind of funny as I was looking into this. The first panel, there's 14 competing standards. Second panel's like, oh, that's terrible. Why is there 14 different ways to do this? There should be one defined way. And then the third panel is, now there's 15 different ways to do this, right? And I felt like that related so well to this. It's like, oh, there's so many ways to do that. There should just be one definitive way, right? And it's like, well, now there's just one more way. Because you never know what, I have a few different setups here, but there could be, many different setups that you find out in the real world climbing. Okay, so jumping into our next segment. So just a little bit of context and principles when it comes to talking about anchors. So anchors are a massive, massive, massive topic, huge. I teach anchors often over multiple days. It's called a single pitch instructor course for climbing guides. And they're learning, well, climbing instructors technically. They're learning, how to use static rope to rig from a tree and a boulder and 3 pieces of gear, bring it all together. It's very complex. It's all really fun stuff to learn. Unfortunately, with this setup, that would be very hard to do. So I'm kind of curtailing our conversation a little bit. So the context of our discussion tonight is 2-bolt, single pitch anchors. I wrote at popular climbing areas on the face of the rock, typically led to. Okay, that's a huge mouthful. But what I'm saying is, It's a 2-bolt anchor, so we're not talking about trad gear. We're not talking about 3-point, 4-point, 7-point anchors. Um, Popular climbing areas, what I'm getting at with that is that the bolts are probably good. We'll talk a little bit about bolts um, pretty soon here. But that's going to be our best bet for probably good bolts. And then on the face of the rock, what I mean by that is a lot of times, this is our cliff, we're at the bottom of the cliff here, and here's where we're climbing. We're talking about anchors that are on the face of the rock. Okay, not back here. You'd want to rig a different kind of anchor so that your focal point of your anchor is out on the, over the cliff edge. So that could be a little more complex than what we're going to get into tonight. So we're talking about on the face, and that's common for routes you lead, commonly led to. I think I wrote that. Yeah, typically led to. And when I started climbing, I was doing a lot of top rope rigging. I think nowadays a lot of people, they're climbing in the gym, they're learning to lead. They're going straight to leading sport pitches and setting up anchors on the face. But anyway, that's the context of our discussion, which also relates to anchor cleaning, right? If you're rigging an anchor off of trees or from the top of the cliff like this, well, you walked up to set up this anchor, so you wouldn't need to clean it. With a technical system, you would just walk up and clean it. So, so we're kind of talking about, some people might call it sport climbing anchors, but that's not the case, because I find this all the time trad climbing. I always trad climb, a single pitch trad climb, and get to 2 bolts. Those are what's going to allow me, they're what's going to allow me to clean all my gear. So that's our context for our anchor discussion, okay? Great. Anchors, again, massive topic. I'm sure people have gotten anchor instruction before and have learned various acronyms for anchors. Earnest, serene, who knows what else is out there. Generally, I'm not a big fan, but I shouldn't go into all that tonight, and we'll keep it a little simpler. There's going to be 3 major considerations when it comes to anchor building that I care about for all my anchors. There's a lot of angle, timely equalization. I'm not going to get myself started on that because I could rant forever. I like to focus on what I think are the most important things so we don't get lost in all this other stuff. So the most important things are that the anchor is solid, okay, that we have redundancy, okay, if one thing fails, do I have something else, basically, and then secure. I don't think those are all in the same tense, but so that's what we care about: solid, redundant, and secure. Okay, so with solid, what we're talking about is high quality bomber bolts in bomber rock. Now, if we were talking about trad gear, right, we'd be talking about, quality placements in quality rock. But we're talking about bolts. So then the question is, well, how do you know if the bolts are good or not? And despite everything I'm about to say, the answer is you can't. You can't. What's making the bolt solid is invisible. It's inside the rock. We can't see. I don't know if I have a bolt sitting here on the table. We can't see the mechanism that's securing the bolt to the rock. So we don't know if that's rusty or not. We can get some hints by what we see on the outside. Is it super rusty on the outside? Et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is we have no idea. I was just climbing in Mexico this winter. I'm trying to see if Julianne's here. I don't think she is. And we pulled a bolt out. It never happened before in my climbing career. We just pulled it out by hand. Now, it looked terrible. Okay, it wasn't didn't look amazing. Then I was like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? It was like, wow, that's sketchy. And then it was like, oh yeah, sure enough. So I'm just trying to be real with you guys. You know, if you've been climbing outdoors, like you're trusting bolts that idiots like me put in. You know, that's the reality, really. Um, and that's why I mentioned climbing at popular areas, because areas that are frequented, that have lots of ticks on mountain project that people are going to every weekend, those are going to have lots of eyes on them, generally be well kept. You know, when you're wandering off into the woods to this area you stumbled upon, or, you know, that has, you know, stuff that has no mentions on Mountain Project, and then you have this ancient hardware on there, you're rolling the dice. You probably get away with it. Um, but so we don't really know when it comes to too solid. You know, shiny's good. Um, yeah, practically, I can't really explain to you. I didn't really start to understand bolts until I started doing a lot of bolting, the different types of bolts and stuff like that. And even then, I don't have X-ray vision, so I don't know. I don't know. Um, but anyway, so our assumption is going to be that our bolts are pretty solid throughout, you know, climbing in popular areas. Um, Redundancy, um, what that means is if one part of our anchor were to fail, is there something else there in its place? So maybe I guess I've got an example of an anchor over here that people can see. It's not exactly perfectly set up. We'll get to that, but I have two locking quick draws. So the idea would be, oh, if this fails, okay, I've got this, all right. Then if this fails, yeah, I'm still good. Okay, if the bolt fails, okay, I'm still good. So that's the concept of redundancy. Super important concept in anchor building, especially. There's times we don't have that, okay? The climbing rope, this is America. We use generally one climbing rope. You go to England, they're using two, but um, we use one climbing rope. Often we have one belay loop. It's funny because I'm using a big wall harness right now that has two, but one belay loop, right? One gree connected to one carabiner, connected to one belay loop. So redundancy, we don't have it everywhere in climbing, but it's important for our anchors. And then security, you know, how much security do I have? So you know, is it all built on wire gate carabiners? You know, what's the likelihood of things unclipping? That's what we're referring to with security. And how secure we need things to be is going to depend on the context. And we're going to talk about that as we look through our anchors. Cool. So no questions have come in yet. So there is a million ways to build anchors, right? Um, I'm just going to show a few. Um, Feel free to ask me questions about more, but I could spend, you know, this could be like a 4-day live stream marathon where I just tie different anchors for you guys. Would be very fun for me, but I don't know how practical it would be for you. So in the context we've defined, I'm going to show some anchors that I'm commonly kind of employing and playing with. So great. So moving on to our next section here, and I called it, I think I misspelled you know, lead to single pitch anchors. It's kind of a weird term, but I'm going to start with the most secure, and then we're going to work our way down in terms of security. So I'll leave solid, redundant, secure up there. You can see up this corner. So our first anchor here is going to be the quad. Very hot right now. People are loving the quad. So here I'm using a 120 centimeter Dyneema sling. You can tie a quad with a lot of different materials with a cordelette, triple length sling, quadruple length sling. Not so much anything smaller than this, and you'll see why that's the case. Same with nylon. If this was nylon, which is thicker, the knots are too bulky. This isn't enough material. But anyway, tons of videos and stuff on this, so don't worry too much. But I'll take my single length sling, or double length sling, I'll double it up. Now I have two strands, and I'm putting the bar tack kind of offset from one end there, because it always gets in the way. And then I'll start with the bar tack side. I'll tie an overhand knot, kind of right up against that bar tack. And then I'll go to the other side and I'll tie another overhand knot right up against the end there. And then this is what I'm left with. Let's see, do I have stuff on me? Okay. And then I use locking carabiners on those two ends. Flip them to the bolts. I like to flip my carabiners, and I would recommend flipping the carabiners so that now the gates screw down with gravity. So gravity helps kind of keep these gates closed. I like to use lockers on my top rope anchors. I use this a lot multi-pitch climbing, and I don't use lockers. Why? Well, when I'm multi-pitch climbing, I'm standing right here and I'm looking at this while I'm belaying my partner. But if I'm top roping, I might be leaving that at the top of the cliff all day. So it's not an observed anchor. So I like that additional level of security of lockers. And then I'm going to have to put the kind of focal or master point carabiners in. So I end up with 4 strands here in my master point, and that's where the name the quad comes from these 4 strands. I like to clip 2 and 2 with my carabiners, and then my top rope, or my rope, I would clip my rope in like this and lock the carabiners. So these carabiners are opposed or opposite and opposed, meaning both gates are, screwing down. The adage is screw down so you don't screw up. And if I were to open these carabiners, they form this kind of closed, even though the carabiners are open, they form this closed ring. So that's what opposite and opposed means. If one of these was flipped around, they wouldn't be opposite and opposed. So this is the most kind of secure way to do things, two lockers there. And this is a quad setup. It's an amazing anchor system. I love it. I don't love it why a lot of people think you should love it. Great. I see some questions in. Love to see it. I'll get to that here in a second. What I love about the quad is that it's versatile. So I think I gave some, pros and cons to you guys. So it's very, very secure. Lockers, right? And it's very versatile. And what I mean by that is I tied this one in a pretty short piece of material, but if these bolts were at different heights, the quad is still fine to use. If the bolt's all the way down here or if the bolt's all the way up here. And this is about the shortest piece of material you can use the quad in. So if you had a longer piece of material, you could use even more spread out bolts, or possibly bolts that are back from the cliff edge, which I mentioned was not really our context tonight. But if you had a long enough quad, they could be able to reach out in front of the cliff edge. So that's what I love about the quad. I generally leave mine tied and it just exists like this, and I bring it around places. And I would recommend untying it, every couple of climbing days, so that you're moving the knots and stressing the material in a different way. It's going to kind of rub against the rock the same way over and over. So the quad, very, very secure, versatile. The context or some of the cons is that it's not easy to clip in as a leader. Okay, so I set it up as a top rope here. Well, my partner might be psyched to lead. So, right, I get back down to the ground. They're like, oh, I'm going to lead it. And I was like, oh, I thought you were going to top rope it. So we pull the rope and then they go to lead it, right? They're tied in. And they go to lead and they're like up there at the anchor and they're like, everything's locked. Like I can't clip the rope in, right? So they have to get up there and undo something and then clip in. Or of course they could clip in with their PAS if they had one. So that's a bit of a downside of the quad. And then the context I would suggest using it would be just use it. It's pretty awesome. If you're planning to do, mostly top roping, this is very easily adaptable to have something nice to clip into for for a leader, like how about, that? They can get up and clip in and then get the carabiners unlocked. Many, many ways to do that. But yeah, the context is if I'm going to have one lap on this, or if I'm going to set this up all day long because I'm guiding a group of people. I love it for that. Very secure, hard to beat, really. So I would say, have a good reason why you're not using a quad. Let me take a look at these questions. Do you prefer screwing lockers or the twisting type? So, auto lockers, here's one. So it doesn't have a screw gate. I like auto lockers pretty much in one place and one place only, and that's on my Gree. They are nice. They could be nice in this context because there's an active component help keeping them locked. Generally, I use screw gates. There's nothing wrong with two or double or triple action auto lockers. Personally, I don't. I love it on my Gree. I don't love it very many other places, but I think it's a good use for them. I don't have very many. But yeah, totally can go with auto locking. So somebody asked, you just use wire gate on multi? So just on these carabiners, I'm okay with using wire gates because I'm observing the anchor. I would never say I just use wire gates or I always do this or I never do that. But on a multi-pitch, I'm standing there observing it. It is nice. You can do one locker, one non on a multi-pitch. I'm kind of giving best practices, but also I don't want you to do things just because I said so. How do you feel about it? What do you think based on your climbing experience? Do you feel more comfortable with lockers? Great. But I would say in general, right, two non-lockers on the anchor components is okay in a multi-pitch context. When you put the lockers on the bolts, do you place lockers on top of the permanent gear or underneath? I understand that if you put them on top, then if the rock is soft, it can erode like sandstone. Cool. So this comes up all the time. I just had somebody call me an idiot on Instagram yesterday because of my comment on something like this. So great. So the question is, and let's step back a little bit. This comes up a lot. There was this very, a semi-viral reel going around right now with this as kind of the subject. So the question is, maybe I have a better kind of example, keep it a little cleaner. Where do you clip this? Do you clip it here? Clip and flip. I often clip and flip. Do you clip it underneath? Do you clip it here? Can you clip it here? Can you clip it here? Okay. You can clip it anywhere you want. This is not hurting anybody. There's not, this is kind of an armchair thing. I'll tell you what I always do is I just go on top. I never really think about this. I go into chain links. I almost never go underneath. So the idea that this person, Claire, mentioned was, oh, if you go on top, you'll press this into softer rock and could erode the rock. That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one. What usually I hear is, oh, if you load a carabiner, when there's something else in there, the carabiner is going to get bent and snap, and you're going to die, and your whole family is going to die, and the whole lineage is over. But to address your point, is this going to erode the rock? Yeah, climbing erodes the rock. This even just being here and blowing in the wind for millennia erodes the rock. If you look at sandstone and there's anchors hanging, or over here, right, I have Mussy hooks hanging. These are blowing in the breeze and constantly eroding the rock. That's just a reality. So you putting a carabiner there is not going to have any effect really. As far as the carabiner levering, yeah, if you see with the setup you have that your carabiner is being levered really crazy, yeah, maybe put it somewhere else. But we have redundancy, we have 2 points. I've seen that maybe once in my climbing career. Generally, the people who put in the bolts, they kind of put them in a smart spot. You'd have to have it on like something flat and then just sticking over the edge and yeah, carabiners are weak when loaded, kind of like that, but you can clip in anywhere, release that from your brain, worry about the things that are actually causing accidents, worry about, tying a knot in the end of the rope, closing your system, miscommunications when cleaning. It's a great question. I see it all the time. And people would vehemently disagree with me on this. How much do they know? I don't know. This guy, didn't seem to know much, who called me an idiot recently. Um, but yeah, I'm not, people have retort to a lot of things, to things I say. It's kind of the fun thing about climbing is you can do it a lot of different ways. I think pretty hard about how I want to teach things, not how I do things. I'm not showing you how I do things necessarily. I'm just showing what I think I could suggest to a group of people I don't know that's practical. And I think when we worry about these other things, even though we're trying to be, we're trying to be very smart and safe, right? Because we're worried and we should be. But I think giving people things to worry about that's really not causing any incidents is taking attention away from the things that are hurting people every weekend in America out rock climbing. Um, so great questions. Thank you. Um, the quad, I didn't really show the context of me actually rigging that. So maybe, if I was actually leading up. So maybe I'll give a brief mention to that. Um, dang it, why does time go so quickly? So I'll briefly mention that. We'll move on to our other anchor types here. So I'm tied in now. If I led up to this, I don't necessarily want to be building my anchor while I'm standing on a ledge. So it would be a smart idea to, at the very least, clip, again, anything, and then clip my rope into it as if I was leading. I don't have to take on this. Just clip it so you're not taking a whipper while you're building this. Now, often the climbing is kind of challenging, and I can clip in and take and then build my anchor. Or sometimes I'll just clip myself in with a quick draw or with a PAS. Personally, I don't use a PAS. That discussion is coming, but I'll often just kind of like clip myself in, poof, and hang, and then I'll build my anchor. I don't trust my life to this quick draw. I'm on belay right now. I'm just positioning myself while I build the anchor. So it's a little silly to be standing up at the anchor, even if it's a decent ledge, potentially looking at a very dangerous fall while you build this. Okay, blitzing along here. Next in like layers of security, and you guys have it there in your notes, would be 2 locker draws. Locker draws are awesome. What is it? It is a dog bone, like for a quick draw, with 2 locking carabiners on it. I use these a lot, even not for anchors, even just on key pieces of gear or key bolts or maybe high first bolts, stuff like that. They're great. Usually, I don't think you can buy these like this. You just buy a $3 dog bone and you put your own lockers on it or take 2 out of your quick draws. So you'll notice how I set it up. I have this carabiner gate facing the opposite direction of this one. Normally, I hate this on my quick draws, but I like it on my locker draws because I'm going to clip and then I'm going to flip this. And that way, these are screwing down with gravity and the gates are on the same side once I've done that flip. Generally, we want all the gates facing out because they'll get pulled together. And if they're pulled together and there's a protrusion of rock here, it could play on the gate. Very small concern, but it doesn't cost me anything to clip it that way with the gates facing out, so I do it. Let me untangle myself from my microphone. So 2 opposite and opposed locker draws. Okay, and then I would lock these up. Also very, very secure. not super versatile. I need these to come together to roughly the same point. So that doesn't give me, I have a couple places to clip in here, but that doesn't give me a ton of versatility. Um, if I had chain links, then I can go into any chain link. If these bolts are at different heights, I could go to the bottom chain link here and then to here. I want these at more or less the same place coming together. I hope that makes sense. Opposite and opposed. Similar pros and cons to the quad. It's very secure. I'll top rope on it all day long with a group when I'm out guiding. Nowhere for a leader to clip in. If a leader comes up here, both of these are locked. I have nowhere to clip in. Now, actually, you have the Mussy hooks I would clip into. Um, yeah, so another consideration. So not great for different height bolts. Okay, moving on would be, so moving down in security would be one locker draw and one quick draw. So I'll remove one of my locker draws here. I see people do locker draws with just one locking carabiner on the rope side. To me, that's like just halfway useful. It's like, is it a lock? It's not, it's still not super secure. So I like two lockers. But okay, so one quick draw and one locker draw. This is another potential anchor configuration for the context that we've defined already, right? So again, these are going to be opposite and opposed, come to roughly the same point, so not very versatile. Decent security because of the locking carabiners. Not as secure as it could be, but a huge benefit of this is if I pull the rope for somebody to lead, that once they get up here, they have somewhere to clip in right away. Pretty nice, an easy thing to incorporate into the quad or even with two locker draws. I think a great context for this is, multiple laps going on. Some people are going to top rope, some people are going to lead the climb. Yeah, maybe not an all day long sort of setup. Then I would definitely err on quad or locker draws, right? Because all day long, there's the potential for a little more chaos to get involved. So I want more security. Cool. And then moving down, I think it's maybe a little harder to see over there, so I'll move over this way. Would be two withdraws opposite and opposed. All right, this is where people start crying foul. They're like, I can't believe an AMGA guide would suggest doing this. People, yeah, I trust your own intelligence, right? We're going to talk about context, about all these things, right? So two quick draws, least secure, very insecure. Why? Because we have no lockers. We have more security because we've opposed our carabiners in the master point here. And the gates are facing out, so we've given security. They come to one point nicely, so we do have some security. It's not like, we're not daredevils here. That's the downside, insecure. Upside is it's very quick to deploy. It's stuff I already have. Quick draws, boom, done. The context I use this in is usually climbing with one other partner. I lead, my partner's going to lead or take one top rope, and then we're moving on, like often on the warm-ups, moving on. Yeah, so totally utilizable tool. I wouldn't do this all day long. I wouldn't do this with beginners. If you're taking your friends out that are beginners, I mentioned in the cons, I think in your table there, unclippable by beginners. And what I mean by that is if you send a beginner up a climb, right? And that climb, the rope's running through some quick draws. And you tell that beginner, hey, when you get to one of those quick draws, unclip your rope from it. Okay, then they get to the top of the climb. Well, there's two quick draws, Claire said, unclip the two quick draw, unclip the quick draws from the rope when I get to them. And so they unclip it. It seems crazy, but this happens. And so that's why we wouldn't really do this in a guide context and why I wouldn't recommend you do that with your beginner friends. It seems insane, but you told them to unclip all the quick draws, all the directionals, right? But this is the exact same thing. So that's a big con. So, you know, great to lower off for another lead, maybe a top rope lap or two. That's where I would kind of put the suggestion on something like this. Okay, and then I had one last one here, and I just saw this recently at the crag, and it's very common. And hopefully you guys can see okay. I know I'm getting far from the camera in the dark. Somehow it's dark over here. Is mussy hooks. Just clipping the mussies. Um, Very insecure, especially insecure because mussy hooks are usually not set up to be opposite and opposed. They're usually intended to be facing the same direction. In fact, by trying to twist it to be opposite and opposed, you're going to add a little more likelihood of things coming unclipped because it's going to try and untwist itself. So the American Safe Climbing Association that sponsors a lot of anchors and hardware, they tell their people to install them like this, both gates facing the same direction. So we have two, so we have redundancy, but we don't have that much more security than just one, a bit. So cons, it's very insecure. It wears out the fixed hardware if we're top roping through this. Can get unclipped, especially if you go above mussy hooks. If you go above these, it's really easy to end up over these gates and get the rope to unclip. This rope's really stiff, so it's hard to do. Okay, I think I mentioned in your table, I said there's no pros to using mussy hooks. The reality is there is, right? And it happens a lot where it's like, I climb this, I clean the anchor, I get down to the ground, and then a friend in our group's like, oh, dude, I wanted to climb that actually. Like, oh, we just cleaned it. Well, you take a little sneaky top rope lap. I certainly have. Okay, I'm not on some high horse, but it's one thing to do something, and it's one thing to do it when you understand that it's risky or there's consequences, yada, yada. Another common context where you might find yourself doing this is I get to the top, I tell my partner, hey, do you want to climb this? And they're like, I'm sure a lot of you have found yourself in this situation. They're like, yeah, but I don't want to commit to getting to the anchor and then cleaning the anchor. Like maybe it's a 40-meter pitch. And they're like, I don't want to necessarily climb the whole thing. So sometimes people will clean and just go through the mussies. That way that person doesn't have to go all the way. Some people would say it's sacrilege for me to even be telling people this, right? But this is the reality of what happens. People are top roping through mussies. I wouldn't recommend it as a general practice. I've certainly done it in these kind of off scenarios, but there are accidents with mussies, generally more with cleaning and with people getting above them, often beginners getting above them. Cool. I think another couple questions came in. Allison's got to run. People using two normal quick draws. What's your take on that? Cool. I think we got to that, right? We can be aware when we may eventually run into it out in the wild. Yeah, totally. So like, because right, they might be like, ooh, we just cleaned the anchor. It's running through the mussy hooks, right? And then you can decide, you can say, oh, okay, that's okay, I'll do something else. Or you can say, okay, based on my experience, not, oh, Kevin said he did it sometimes. No. But okay, I understand that. Maybe the pitch isn't very long. We can see the anchors, you can make that decision. I wouldn't recommend top roping through the mussy hooks as kind of a textbook answer that's very robust. Okay, let's move on to anchor cleaning and some of the context there. So I guess I'll stay tied in, even though I have a tiny amount of tail here. So Moving on to anchor cleaning. Give myself a little whiteboard room up here. Okay, so what is anchor cleaning? Some of the folks here have not had no exposure to this, I believe, from reading, at least that's what they claim. So anchor cleaning is, well, you built this anchor. How do I then, I led up to this, I built this anchor, we climbed on it, and now I want to take it down. Well, how do I take it down without just falling to the ground, right? So we need to clean this using the fixed hardware that's there, to then take our anchor down and to take down all our quick draws or our trad pro or whatever's in the pitch. So again, we're talking about, single pitch led to anchors. If you are building a more complex anchor, you would just walk off. Nikki sent me a question. What if there's no hardware on the bolt hangers? If there's no hardware on the bolt hangers, that means either A, somebody stole the hardware, or B, everyone walks off of that climb. So there's a way to walk down. So hopefully people know what I'm talking about when I mean hardware. I've shown a couple examples here. Quick link chain, Mussy hook, quick link. That's what we're talking about with hardware. If all there was the hangers, that suggests that there's a way to get down, which is walking down. If this has no hardware on it and this does, I'll leave my anchor on this and just remember at the end of the day that when I'm cleaning this anchor, to get over and grab those. Cool. Back on Mussy hooks, somebody asked, what's the difference between top roping on them and getting down on them? So significant difference. Getting down from them is boom, I clip them, I take, and I lower. I never unweight or stand up. When we're climbing on them, we're climbing back up. There's the potential very off chance for things to come unclipped. There have been accidents, and more so if you were to then climb and get above these for those to come unclipped. So that's the difference. The accident I do know about with Mussy hooks was when the rope got very twisted, and twists make a rope more rigid, and then it got lifted from being climbed on, and then the rope got over the gates of the Mussy hooks. So that's the difference between lowering and top roping. And then also top roping puts more wear, unnecessary wear on the hardware than simply lowering off. Which brings me to my next point, which is, we're talking about anchor cleaning. We do not rappel to clean anchors. That blew some people's minds. Some people are like, did he just have a stroke? Why is he talking so slow? We don't rappel to clean anchors anymore. We lower, okay? Rappelling is more dangerous. It leads to these miscommunications that cause accidents, yada, 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 yada. Don't take my word for it. The American Mountain Guides Association, the American Safe Climbing Association, the American Alpine Club all agree we lower off of climbs now. Yes, it puts puts more wear on the fixed hardware, but we just do not rappel anymore. We don't do it ever, basically. So I don't know if that, okay, we've got some mind blown minds out there. People often do it because they heard, oh, somebody said it's more ethical to rappel, and they're good people, and so they rappel. And then they see other people lowering, they're like, you should be rappelling. So let's stop doing that. Let's stop shaming people that lower. Everyone lowers. We could get into the why, and we will maybe a little bit. But anyway, that's the context here. So when we clean the anchor, we get set up to lower. Some more principles. Let me do a big rappel with an X through it. Rappelling. No. Please, no. Okay. Some other important principles. Somebody asked a question in the order form. They wanted to learn how to better teach people how to clean anchors. And the most important thing is never, ever let a new climber clean an anchor. Right? Anchor cleaning it's not that complex, but when you're new and everything's weird, there's accidents. So never let a new climber clean an anchor. And please, for the love of God, don't do the thing I see at the crag where one person's like, and then I do what? And they're like, you pass the bite through, what? And they're like shouting it. It's like, I'm just like, oh my God. Yeah, just like teach them on the ground, go, be on an anchor nearby and watch them. If you're teaching somebody, it's not, something to be taken lightly. And don't consider this, don't see me do this now and be like, I can do it. Like practice on your own. You're just, you know, um, you need to practice this stuff. Communicate as little as possible. Um, Somebody asked why we don't wrap down. Well, to rappel down, you need to be taken off belay. So you're changing your system. Um, and with people having rappelled a lot in the past, some people still think people are going to rappel. And so when their climber gets to the top and they said they're going to clean the anchor, they take them off belay and then they expect they're going to be lowered and they fall to the ground. Happens a lot. So we want to communicate as little as possible. Slack, take, and lower are the only commands I should use at most. Cool. If possible, test, but definitely check your system before untying and committing to a new system. We want to stay on an effective belay at all times. This is a very important question to ask yourself as you're cleaning. I'm going to abbreviate it, but am I on belay? Well, I said, am I on an effective belay? So not only does the rope need to be in the belay device, but while you're doing this process, you should always be on an effective belay. Great. And then my other principle is that you should always, 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 we'll have this be the anchor we're cleaning. Flip and flip. And lock. The bare minimum of stuff you should always have on your harness is a quick draw and a locking carabiner. Always have those on your harness, no matter what's going on. Okay, I learned that one the hard way. We don't have time for story time, but you want those two things on your harness at all times. Great, so we're going to get into anchor cleaning. You'll notice something drastic is missing here. Some of you are like, when is he going to talk about a PAS? Personally, I don't use a PAS. There is nothing wrong with using a PAS. I prefer to teach this without one. PAS is a personal anchor system. It would be like a sling or often a piece of rope that's used to tether yourself to an anchor. And it's a very kind of robust thing that lives on your harness. You might not have that on your harness. It's also not necessary for cleaning an anchor. Minds are blowing yet again, but there's an important reason why I stress this point a little bit, which relates to the rappelling thing, which relates to the miscommunications causing accidents. So this is actually not the configuration I wanted to start with. I wanted to start with meaning these chain links here. I want to start with Mussy hooks. So cleaning the anchor, it's not just cleaning the anchor, but it's also cleaning the pitch. So let's say I led up this route, right? My quick draws are in the pitch, and nobody else in my group is going to climb this, and we're done. So I led it. I'm selfish. It's all about me. Nobody else wants to do it. So I'm just going to take my rope. I'm leading right now. I'm going to clip it in to the Mussy hooks. I'm going to say take, and I'm done. And there's no anchor to clean, but I'm still going to clean my quick draws on the way down. So Mussy hooks, super convenient. There are some accidents with that convenience, which we've kind of talked about, people getting above them. So I mentioned, in the handout, did you top rope up to that anchor or did you lead up to that anchor? It'll change slightly how you go about cleaning. So let's say now top roped up to this anchor. Okay, using a quad, a very robust system. Make sure they're opposite and opposed. Okay, I top roped up to here. Now, if there's a ledge up there, I can just stand here and clean the anchor. I might need to clip in to free my hands in order to do the actual cleaning. You know, with mussy hooks, usually if I'm climbing, I'm able to remove one hand. So I can get to here. I just simply clip. I might have to ask for slack if I was top roping because they kept me kind of snug. Clip. And then I can have them take first, and then I can remove the anchor. Now, somebody asked before, do you clip under the quick links? Which this guy on Instagram, said I'm an idiot if I don't. Well, now that the mussy hooks are weighted, if these were underneath the quick links, it'd be really hard to remove them. I'd have to say slack and then take and then oh, whoops and this and that. And actually that can often be more dangerous than clipping above, which, show me the accident report where both carabiners break. Okay, so clip into the mussy hooks. Mussy hooks are fantastic for their convenience. And then I'm going to clean. Right, with the mussy hooks, there was no untying that needed to happen. Very similar to what you're finding at the gym when you get to the top of your leads in the gym. Boom, boom, 2 carabiners. Mussy hooks come in a lot of different flavors. And all this anchor hardware, there's a lot of different styles. I'm showing kind of the most common. Okay, so that's cleaning mussy hooks. Very, very easy. I make sure, a question, why do I make sure the lockers are upside down? So that gravity helps keep the screw gate closed instead of, repetitive taps slowly twisting that gate open. Very minor thing, to be honest, but it doesn't cost me anything to do, so I do it. Okay, I don't know why I started with this here. So I'm gonna get these chain links out of here. We'll come to that. Any questions on cleaning mussy hooks? I should emphasize again these accidents that have been happening recently where somebody goes to clean them and they climb above them and then they're clipping down on them. I can't get above. I guess I could climb my ladder, but then my microphone would rip out. Let's say there's a big jug, right, like way up here. So they're kind of above. Then they clip into the mussy hooks. Especially bad is when their body's on the opposite side, right? They clip down onto the mussy hooks and then they come down to take. And these mussy hooks, they have a huge nose. These are not made for rock climbing. Okay, we're utilizing them for rock climbing, but they have this huge nose, which makes them easy to clip and then easy to unclip. I think October 2024, maybe 23 fatality from that very thing. So stay below mussy hooks. I think I mentioned that in the handout, but I should have emphasized here. Okay. I'd say probably the most common anchor I clean is on 2 rings like this, or it could be 2 quick links in series. Why do you always have 2 things? Because one thing is oriented incorrectly and will twist the crap out of your rope. So you have 2 things, and now this is oriented nicely for your rope. So let's say my anchor I'm cleaning is 2 quick draw anchor. We did our warm-ups and now we're gonna clean this and go down. So a little less convenient than the mussy hooks, but a cheaper setup for the person who's developing the route. And so you see this a lot. I lost my, okay, I'm gonna switch this to a locker because I broke my rule. I didn't have a quick draw on me. Okay, so how do I clean this anchor? In this case, I've top roped up the way I have it set up now. So I've top roped up. I'm going to position myself with a quick draw. Quick draw to my belay loop. I can go just about anywhere with that. I've chosen to go through both of these carabiners, but I could go into one of these rings. I could go into one up here. I could go into here. I could go into just this quick draw. This is really important. I am not trusting my life to this. I am positioning myself with this. I'm freeing my hands with this. You could use a PAS or a locker draw and, have redundancy, etc. You could do that, but you don't need to because you're always going to be on an effective belay. I'm on top rope belay right now. This could be a shoelace for all I care. I'm just holding my body. I'm on belay the whole time. I do everything I'm showing, all the cleaning I'm showing. When people use a PAS or they think they need to be on 2 different points, etc., that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if they think to themselves, I need to be off belay, and then they communicate that with the partner, or their partner assumes it, or they say something else silly like indirect, right? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to communicate as little as possible with my belayer so that they don't misunderstand me. So I find it's a mental thing. When people are using the PAS, they think they're no longer utilizing their belay and they don't focus on maintaining an effective belay with how they're doing their process. So I'm not trusting my life to this because I'm always, always, always on an effective belay. If this were to fail, I'm on a top rope. Okay, so I position myself. I'm going to take a bite of rope, B-I-G-H-T. That's what that is, just a pinch. I'm going to pass it. Oh my gosh, pull my wall down on me. Everyone message Brenda and tell her that I should be able to bolt this to the wall. Okay. Passed a B-I-G-H-T through, and then through the 2 rings. And then I'm going to tie a knot. Figure 8 knot, overhand knot, doesn't matter. A knot. I recommend doing kind of a small loop on your knot. That'll help when you test it. Then I'm going to take that other thing I always have on me, which is my locking carabiner, and I'm going to lock it to my belay loop. I'm funny, I have 2 belay loops right now, but okay. And I'm going to check that. Bite knot through the rings, locked, belay loop, great. It's a very simple system. Okay, now I'm going to give perhaps my first command to my belayer, which would be to take. Okay, they're going to take. That's going to come tight on my new system before I then remove my old system, which would include now untying my knot. That's right. Always add and test a new system before you remove an old one if you can. So untied my knot and I'll pull that tail through. Okay, and then I'm going to clean everything else. Right, and I had already taken on my belayer, so then I'd give my only other command, which is ready to lower. And to lower me down. And I clean my anchor. So I don't retie in, I just go like this on a locker. Good to go, very simple. Retying in is easier to mess up than locking in like this. Okay, on my way down, I'm not going to try some moves on the pitch. Like, oh, let me try the crux again because I'm only on 1 locking carabiner here. This could get cross-loaded, etc. So I'm just lowering down. I'm cleaning the draws as I go. Okay, that's cleaning. What do you do with that long tail? Just let it hang. Yep, let it hang. All good. No need to tie back in. Easier to mess up tying back in. Okay, what if I led up to rings? Okay, not really any difference. I might have these in the wall, but no difference, right? If I led up here, I'm going to get up here. I'm going to tether right in, boom, something like that. Oh no, Kevin, that's metal on metal. You're not allowed to put metal on metal because that's what somebody on the internet says. Well, I'm not sure. Well, first of all, the bolt's metal on metal. This is metal on metal. This is true. I don't really want to enchain carabiners like this. It's not the best practice. Ugh. They can unclip from each other. But again, this is just positioning me. I'm not trusting my life to this because I'm always going to stay on an effective belay. Okay, so it looks very similar if you led up to the anchor. Great. Okay, I'm doing okay on time. I thought this was going to be so quick. All right, last one I want to show, and there's so many more. I know we have a lot of Bay Area people. If you've climbed at Vent 5 on the coast or Mickey's Beach, you've seen a lot of ram's horns anchors. I have some ram's horns, but I made the mistake of lending them to my partner, Eric, and I've never seen them again. So there are many other anchor setups, okay? I'm just showing some common ones. This one's not very common. Chain is common, but the issue I'm about to come into is not very common. But I think it's important to know. And this setup is chain. Very, very common. What's uncommon is that the chain length is too small for you to pass a bite through. This one's not that small, but this rope's really stiff. So what if you can't pass a bite through? That's what I want to talk about next. I've done this not a lot in my climbing career, almost to the point where it's not worth me mentioning it to you. But you know, just in a practicality time management thing. But it does happen. Again, if you stay to popular climbing areas, you probably won't come into this. This is a cheap developer. They didn't want to spend, you know, $3-4 more on another quick link to put at the end of this chain. And I get it. All this stuff costs a lot of money. And if you have enough free time to be putting all this stuff in, you probably don't have a full-time job and you can't afford very much hardware. So let's say I just showed, I think I showed top roping up a couple of times. I'll show leading up. I climb up, I lead up to this anchor. Boom. I position myself. And again, this could have anchor hardware on it or not, right? Because I might be the only one in my party climbing it. Opposite and opposed, always. So I'm going to remove these now just so you can see a little better what's going on. Now, I didn't clip into the bottom chain link because I'm going to need to try and pass my bite through here. So that was a bit of forward thinking on my part. So the first step with a tiny chain link is you're going to try to get your bite through. And I honestly can get a bite through this chain. So first you're going to try. And then if you really can't, then you're going to do this next setup. I actually do want to show this. I'm sorry, this is a little back and forth, which I try not to do. Try to keep a little continuity. But I do actually want to show this as a top rope because this will bring up the biggest possible mistake when doing this. Okay, so I'm top roping. Okay, that's all that changed. I'm still going to position myself like this. The only really difference often with top roping is I have to add one more command, which I have to ask for slack. So normally my commands when I'm cleaning are take lower, no indirect, no off belay, no, oh, I'm clipped into the anchor now, and none of that. Because so many accidents happen where because rappelling's still in our world, right? People were even here were like, what, rappelling? And to rappel, you have to be taken off belay. And so if you get up there and you say, hey, I'm indirect to the anchor now, start cleaning it, that person you met on the meetup group, they're like, oh, cool, off belay, you know, walks away because you said you're indirect. What does that term mean? Nobody knows. That's kind of the point I'm making. So there's no need to say anything. If I've top roped, I will probably have to ask for slack. If I've led, I don't need to ask for slack because a good lead belayer is just going to be, if I'm pulling, they're given, right? So nothing to say. Okay, I try and pass the bite through. It doesn't go through. This is the critical part. I'm going to take rope from my side of the anchor and I'm going to tie my bite knot. Overhand, figure eight, doesn't matter. It's a climbing knot or rock climbing. Being nice and making my knot dress. And I'm going to put that on my belay loop and I'm going to lock it. Okay, I need to get the end of my rope. So I need to untie my knot. That's why I did this. But I need to ask myself, am I on an effective belay? I was very deliberate and I went from my side of the top rope anchor. So what do you guys think? Am I on an effective belay? Is it okay for me to untie my knot? You can ask yourself, what if? What if this fails? What if that fails? Am I on an effective belay? The way I have it set up, I am, because I went from my side. I went from my knot when I taught this bite. The wrong way, skull and crossbones wrong way, would be if I went from this side, the belayer side, and I tied my bite knot, and I clip into this, and I start to untie my knot. I'm not on belay as soon as I untie this, right? Because the rope is just going straight to the ground. Straight to the ground here. It's not through the anchor once I untie this. So I'm actually trusting my life to this. So very minute thing. But if you find yourself in this situation, just go on your side of the knot and always be a little paranoid when you're cleaning anchors and just ask yourself, am I on an effective belay right now? If I do this, do I stay on an effective belay? Yes or no? So, okay. Tiny chain link, I've tried it already. I take from my side of the top rope anchor, give myself a bite. This is going to be effectively my new tie-in. Lock it to my belay loop. Now, I said, function check if you can. I could ask my partner to take now and then untie, rethread, and then have to ask them for slack later. Or this is a very simple system. I can look at it and it's okay. On the rappelling webinar, I got some feedback from somebody that they were shocked that I would say you don't always have to function test everything. And that's fair feedback. Function test if possible. If it makes you feel better, function test. To me, this is a very simple system. You can trust your eyes. Okay, so I untied, I got the end here. I'm going to poke the end through the rings. And then in this case, I'm going to retie in. Okay, normally we have a partner check our system. We don't have a partner to check our system. So we're going to have to triple check it through two hard points. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, adequate tail. It's through the two rings, okay, through the two hard points, because there's no way for me to function test this before I remove this, okay? So function testing is great. It can't always be done. So make sure you tied your knot right through the rings, through two hard points, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, adequate tail. Then I can take this off. And I'm still, positioned here on my quick draw. Get these out of the way. Take, remove my kind of positioning, clean the anchor, and lower. So my textbook answer is always function check. The answer that, saves my butt the most is to say to always function check. Practically, do we always function check our climbing knot when we tie in? Do we, fall on the first bolt every single time to make sure function check the gree every time? No. So it's kind of like redundancy. It's good to do, but it's not something we can always, 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 always do. And it's certainly in a more complex setup like rappelling, multi-pitch rappelling, probably a good idea to function test. Okay, I've got 10 more minutes. Great, people digging the honesty. I like it. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, part of me wants to just shut up and say what the textbooks say and walk the line. But I honestly disagree some of the times. And one of those ways I disagree, if you'll watch the AMGA technical director, watch his video on cleaning anchors, he'll show using a PAS and going into both bolts. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you should always be on an effective belay. And do you always have your PAS on you? So knowing that a quick draw is okay in these contexts for these reasons and using your brain and not just mimicking and following rules, I think it goes a lot further for your climbing. At some point, you're going to have to start thinking for yourself. It might as well be right this moment. Following rules is not going to keep you safe, right? That quote at the beginning, whatever it was so good. Cool. My brain's starting to get cooked. I got 8 more minutes before kind of time ends. I was hoping to wrap this up earlier and take more questions. I will stick around after time for another half hour or so to take questions if people want to stick around. But while I have my last few minutes, let me give a little bit more of an advanced topic that's going to, lose a few of you if you're new to this stuff. And it's going to excite a few of you who are here to kind of review. And that is the pre-cleaned anchor. What does that mean? I love doing this when I'm guiding. It's very efficient. I often, don't have clients cleaning. I often do because I'm not a guide, I'm an instructor. And if I'm going to teach you how to do this stuff, why wouldn't I have you do it with me? I'm just going to send you out to do it with your friends, but I wouldn't have you do it with me. That's crazy. But this is great. Maybe you're the only person in your group that's proficient with cleaning anchors, and you don't want to have to climb every route twice after them to clean them. A lot of people would just say, oh, just shout up how to clean. And that's, leads to accidents, etc. So this is a great option, pre-cleaning the anchor. So I lead the route first. Normally I would build a top rope anchor, lower down, my group would top rope, then I'm going to climb up and have to clean again. So instead, when I get up here, I'm going to run a little overtime, I think. Okay, I'm sick of standing on my tippy toes. I'm going to make a clip of this and put it on Instagram, and everyone is going to be just roasting me. I'm enchaining 2 quick draws, metal on metal. Oh my gosh, the worst thing you could possibly do. Take this guy's certification away. But I'm just sitting on this. I'm just tired, man, and I'm pumped. I'm just sitting here. I'm still on belay. Okay, I'm going to clean the anchor. This is me setting up a top rope anchor right now. I'm not going to top rope through the rings. I could. It's a bit bad juju because it puts unnecessary wear on the hardware. On the fixed gear, it's best. We should definitely be top roping through our own gear whenever possible. Take, check everything, untie. People are like, this is just cleaning an anchor. I don't know what you're talking about. Pull the end through. Here's another problem with function testing. So I took, but for this setup, I'm going to have to ask for slack. And this is where this is the fancy trick. I take one of my lockers. I like to use one that's like very bright and obviously colored. This one's not quite that. I'll put it through a part of the anchor. Let's see, I might actually prefer it over here. Still on belay, don't worry. And then I'm going to clip my locker and lock it. Then I'll take and lower. This isn't the best example with how things are set up here. But the idea is my locker is going to take all the wear. Okay, so it should be the highest thing in the anchor. This is kind of being slightly higher. So let me try and move it over. See if you guys can pick up what I'm putting down here. Trying to make this run kind of nicely. There we go. Cool. So now the wear is going to be on my own carabiner, not on the rings. I'm wearing out my own carabiner. But then when that last person in the group, the inexperienced person, doesn't know how to clean, you know, or my client often gets to the top, I can just say, hey, that purple carabiner, take that purple carabiner. After they've top roped, right? After my whole group's top roped. We can, Nikki was asking me about this in the order form or in an email beforehand. You can have the whole group top rope through this because you're putting wear on your own equipment. And then that last person, they, you know, I'm set up to lower here, but they would be tied in with rings. We absolutely do not do this with Mussy hooks. We did for about a year and there was all sorts of accidents and we realized, no, we do not pre-clean on Mussy hook anchors. But with rings, right, they come up here, they can't possibly like unclip. I like to use a, you know, brightly colored carabiner or something so I can say, take the purple carabiner. You know, beginners are beginners. They don't know. They might start undoing the quick links or something. Usually those are tightened on. But yeah, they just come up here. They take my one carabiner that we've worn a nice groove into now. They can't really possibly come out of this. And then they take and lower. So that's called pre-cleaning an anchor, a great trick if you're taking a group out or guiding. Again, not doing it with Mussy hooks. I don't have time to get into it, but it just brings the rope above the gates on the Mussy hook. It's just a no. It's just a no-no. So I'm going to even take that off. Ooh, 828. Nice. Great. Hopefully that wasn't too kind of blitzkrieg for people. You know, the goal is not necessarily to make you, you know, this wasn't even a master class, even though I had an hour and a half. But hopefully you picked up on some things. You'll investigate some things on your own. You'll practice some things, talk to your friends. You know, feel free to hang on to that handout. I think if you, in Google Sheets or Docs, if you make a copy for yourself, I think you can do that. If not, I can email it to you. And chat with your friends. You know, if your friends are still rappelling off of anchors, again, do your own research. I didn't have time to really get into why rappelling's the devil. So do your own research and just share some of the info. So cool. So I'm going to say goodbye right now for people who had other commitments. We're expecting this to stop at 8:30. And then, like I said, I'm going to stick around and I would love to do Q&A with folks for another half hour or so on any subject. So thanks so much for coming. It's my pleasure. I think you can unmute yourselves now if my technical support assistant is still there, and say goodbye if you'd like. Again, my name is Kevin Heinrich. I'm owner of Vertical Pursuits. Check us out sometime if you want to get some in-person small group instruction, and we'd love to have you. And good night if you're signing off. I will send out a recording to folks. Please share that with your friends. Everyone will get a recording. Cool. Thank you guys. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. You know, kudos to you all for kind of getting continuing education in this stuff. I know a lot of you probably have done these things, but you had the wherewithal to be like, I'm gonna tune in. That's what safety is. That's that vigilant, dynamic mindset.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey,
Thank you so much for this. Has been so helpful.
you're
The
welcome.
carabiner goes directly to the bolts in the pre-cleaning. Is that right?
Great question. It can go anywhere that makes sense, but it has to go high enough that it's taking all the wear.
Okay.
So this was not really actually a very good setup for it. Um, I should have stuck with the chains, and then I could put it anywhere on the chain link as long as it was higher than the lower point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
This
Because
is
I can
really
set it
cool.
up again, but it's not dangerous if it's not high enough. It's just we're the whole point was to put our to wear this down that I can then replace every once in a while instead of wearing down this hardware that takes longer to replace, just to get people out there to do the work and stuff. So
Yeah, thank you. And one more thing, if I have Mussy hooks or the horns, then
yeah,
it's better, and if I go with people that are less experienced, because as my concern that they wouldn't know how to clean. So it's better to just set up the top anchor and then clean myself at the end.
yeah.
That would be okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we don't want beginners cleaning anchors. They can mess it up. Mussy hooks seem very simple, but it's still, something to mess up. So, my blanket recommendation would be, you climb again, take another lap and clean. It would be pretty bold of me to suggest, oh, just show your friend how to do it on the ground and send them up because of how many accidents happen with exactly that. So I much actually prefer rings to mussy hooks, because I can do the pre-cleaning. When I'm guiding, I like to do the pre-cleaning and stuff. Um, so, um, so yeah.
And with the horns is the same, the Ramsey horns.
So those I don't think I don't know of any accidents with those. They're not used as frequently. They have a little bit more protection from unclipping because it's not this giant opening. It's those curls. I would probably usually the way those are set up, I would advise against pre-cleaning
Okay.
the ram's horns as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Great questions. Thank you for being active participant. I love it. So cool. Any questions, you can type them in if you'd like. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Yeah, Rashida?
Yeah, hello, Kevin. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I want to share something in this group.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mm, yeah, I am a refugee from Afghanistan in US, but I had experience for mountain climbing, rock climbing in my country.
Hmm.
But in here, after that, I left my country to here. But in here, we didn't have any friend to continue this one, mountain climbing or rock climbing, everything. But I saw your post on Instagram and 2 days ago, but I registered myself to come
Cool.
here
Welcome.
to find friend to mountain climbing who is here to help me. I wanna start again my job to
Yeah.
mountain climbing, but in here I didn't have any friend. I didn't know any everything, but I wanna share this one, this thing in this group to continue again.
Yeah, yeah, and I can send you some resources, if you found this on Instagram, there's other Facebook groups where you can find people to climb with or meetup groups. One's called Beta Breakers. That's, they're often, just hosting. They're not professional guides, but they're just like, hey, anyone can come and climb. And that can be a great way to meet people and go climbing. So, I'll probably forget, but I'll try and remember if you can shoot me an email or something, and I can send you some links to some different groups. Another one that off the top of my head is Coalition Crag. That's another really awesome group we partner with, and they often have kind of just meetups. And Coalition Crag even has like a gear library where people can rent gear from their gear library, which is super cool if you don't have gear with you. My girlfriend Brenda just put it in the chat, the link to the Coalition Crag Discord. So yeah, lots of climbers here. So welcome, and hopefully we can get outside and get climbing. You're in a great place for it. We have a lot of great climbing. So thanks for sharing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. Cool. Thanks. Some of those links coming through. That's great. Thanks, Brenda. Any questions? They can be on this topic. They can be more advanced, more basic, more philosophical. I could talk climbing forever. If there's not, no worries. We can move on. If somebody wants me to clarify something, how do you kill the fear? Great question. A bit more philosophical. I love it. My take on fear is we're afraid of the unknown. Azucena, did you have a question about that, or a comment about that, or a different question?
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, no
After
problem.
you finish, yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, oh, you kill the fear with 2 parts honey, 1 part green tea. No. So my perspective on fear, sorry, I'm looking at my screen a lot. My perspective on fear is we're afraid mostly of the unknown. And we should be. The unknown is scary. And so how do you start to dissipate the fear is you start to take just small, controlled, little incremental bites of that and start to dispel that mystery of the unknown, right? And you didn't clarify. I'm curious what you might have fear with. Often it's a fear of falling. And yeah, falling's terrifying. You should be afraid of falling. Everything in your brain has taught you not to fall off cliffs, right? So we work a lot at our company with trad climbers. I guarantee our business, we have more people taking trad falls than any other business in the world. I guarantee it. We have people taking trad falls all the time because I take trad falls when I go out climbing. And I know half of you probably were just like, yikes. But we do it in a controlled way. We start below the gear with the top rope backup, yada, yada. And we take incremental bites of expanding our understanding of falls. And, you know, we get afraid when it's just a question mark. You're afraid of falling because you've only taken 3 falls and one of them kind of hurt. Well, of course you're scared. That's terrible odds. But if you can, you know, put some intention behind, hey, I'm going to practice. And again, I'm going to practice in these incremental ways. I'm not going to start by, I'm going to go way above my bolt and fall. And I'm going to snap it out of me. No, you've just scared the crap out of yourself. And now you have a fear injury. And now you're more afraid of falling. So we work with people to, you know, take very small bites. I tell them they're going to take trad falls on that day, and they're like, yikes. And then every single fall is boring because it only builds slightly on the previous fall. They know what's happening. As that happens, they get more familiar with the mechanics of a fall, yada, yada, yada. And that's only one context. Then if you're 3 feet to the right of your bolt, that's a whole new schema to start learning. Oh, now I'm to the side. So now there's going to be this component of swinging that I have to start learning about. And we just kind of build and build, and we break through the mystery and through the fog. And that's my take on fear. We should be afraid. It's not something that's wrong with us. I have like a good amount of experience. Certain components come together and suddenly I am terrified. And I know it's just psychology or whatever, but it is what it is. It's a part of it. And you know, the wind will pick up and it just kind of freaks me out. Or I'm climbing at Mickey's Beach on the coast and the waves are crashing and it freaks me out. But yeah, I think when we learn in the gym, oftentimes falling is considered this psychological thing. You just have to get over it. Just fall. It's okay. Well, that might be the case in the gym. Probably not, still hazardous. But if we take that mentality outside, that's terrible because it's not just a psychological thing outside. Falling is dangerous. There are things to hit, right? In the gym, they're only going to let you fall on this wall where you fall into the air. Outdoors, especially as you're starting, you're climbing on this wall, where as you fall, you're gonna be contacting the rock. How does that work? Well, you have to, you know, maybe take a course or just take practice, start on top rope and fall and kind of feel it out. That'll teach you how far you fall and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, I took an unsafe fall. Yeah. Yeah, totally. And that's so common to, and I would call that a fear injury. And it takes time to heal from any injury when you have an unsafe fall and it kind of freaks you out. So, be patient with yourself, stack the odds in your favor with a belayer you trust, whatever. And when you're ready, give it a try, whatever that means for you, not starting with whippers. I've watched people, I'm going to take a practice fall. Oh gosh, that didn't work out. And then they give up rock climbing and they go back to badminton. Yeah, if you have no fear, you may be in more danger. That's a great point. Fear is good. I think I don't know if I said it out loud, but I had it in the notes. Like, I want people to be afraid when they're doing technical systems or whatever. Yeah, there's an argument to be made that, that can be so much that it's distracting you from performing properly. But I think a little bit of extra fear and paranoia and a slower progression is better than false confidence and getting away with things and then potentially, progressing quickly or something, but just getting away with it. Yeah, am I offering a self-rescue clinic soon? Yes, I am. I do have the dates right in front of me here. If you check out the Vertical Pursuits website, I just listed it yesterday, I think. So May 3rd is an intro to rescue. I always taught my rescue courses as 2-day courses, but nobody was signing up. So I've split it into 2 one-day courses. So Saturday, May 3rd is an intro to rescue. And then Sunday, May 4th is self-rescue beyond the basics. So we use that terminology in other courses of ours. Our trad beyond the basics course is where we do a lot of falling on gear and kind of exposure to that. We have a sport beyond the basics course. We're coming out with a multi-pitch beyond the basics course, all about efficiency, et cetera. So kind of these more advanced programs. And I'm teaching a rescue course. It's those 2 days. It's so intense. It's so amazing. You learn so much, all with stuff that you already are carrying on your harness. You don't need any new gear. You just need new understanding and new tools, new applications. So I love teaching that course. Oh, dang it. Brenda just said I'm going to be in Hawaii then. Okay, maybe I'm not teaching that course that day. Shoot. Wait, what did I say? May 3rd and 4th. Dang it. Okay, I'll get back to you. That's hilarious. Okay, I'm going to be at a wedding. I'll figure out another time.
Yeah, please let me know because I'm very interested.
Okay, I will let you know.
Thank you.
Hilarious. The Sport Beyond the Basics course is being offered with my partner Eric on May 4th. He's not going to this wedding, so he is available. Sport Beyond the Basics, May 4th. It's all on our website. You can click around. So the sport one, it's kind of that project mentality. Yes, getting comfortable with falls is going to be a part of that, but also just how to approach and project a route. Great. Brenda's sharing some links there. Cool. Anyone else want to get me in trouble with my girlfriend? Cool. All right. Well, we'll call that a wrap. Again, my pleasure. Thanks for getting this knowledge. The more you learn, the more you can help others and share this information with others. And that's, I'm trying to spread it as much as possible, and you can spread it too. Maybe you're not teaching things, but you're at least kind of maybe being a voice of reason or nudging or sharing this or saying, feeling maybe this gave you a little more confidence to tell your friends, no, we shouldn't be rappelling, or or whatever it is. So cool. So thanks so much. I'm gonna sign off and we'll call that a night. Don't hesitate to reach out. I love fielding questions and stuff. If something comes up, reach out to me And hopefully I can see you out at the crag this spring. Winter's coming back in the mountains here these next few days, and then it's rock season. So I hope to see you out there. So thank you all so much, and have a great night.